Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for joining us here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, where we take you around the city of Omaha, introduce you to local business owners, influential figures, and people who are making an impact on the community. We are brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing is a locally owned marketing firm who specializes in website design, creating social media ads, and engaging your brand online. If your business could benefit from any of that, check out pixelfiremarketing.com for more details. Joining me inside of the Pyramid Contractor studio today is Maren Larsen, the Director of Philanthropy at the Micah House. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
For anybody that's joining us that may not know what the Micah House is, can you kind of talk about what you guys do and who you're helping over in the Council Bluffs area?
Yeah, Micah House, we provide shelter and support services to families and women that are experiencing homelessness. So we provide shelter, basic needs, a variety of support services during their time with us.
The way you worded that is interesting to me, because we hear people use the term homeless people all the time, but you guys phrase it as people that are experiencing homelessness. How big of a deal is it for you guys to not put a label on somebody and not let homelessness to define who they are?
Yeah, that's exactly it. We don't want to define the people that are staying with us. They are experiencing so much that even brought them through our doors. And so just giving them a little bit more of a sense of humanity when they're there and making sure that they're comfortable is our top priority.
It's one of, like, we had a guest in here the other day who was in a very similar situation in her previous life. She's a business owner now and she's doing great, but she said, I used to be one of those women, and that was something that kind of, and I called her out on it. We talked about it a little bit, and she was like, it's one of those things that people have been telling you for so long. That's what you are. It's kind of hard not to define yourself in a certain way. Do you find that people that are coming to the Micah House for help have kind of an image of themselves, and that's one of the biggest hurdles that they're facing?
Yeah, I think I kind of see both. We have people that come through the door, and they're sometimes ashamed to be there.
Sure.
They're ashamed at whatever might have brought them there. And then, we have others that are just so grateful for being there, and that's what they want people to look at them as. They want to be looked at as they're working on their next steps, right? So whatever that might mean for them, if it's getting employment, if it's getting housing, if it's going back to school, whatever that might be, we're there to help them along the way.
Can you explain what those steps look like and how people kind of go through the process?
Yeah, so we have 3 case managers within our shelter. So we have a family shelter and then a single women's shelter. We have the 3 case managers, and they help individuals with really whatever it is that they need. If it's obtaining medical care, if it's obtaining employment, working on their housing, applying for different programs, and then their transition out of the shelter.
What is it that seems to be the biggest difficult I guess maybe not the most difficult, but the thing that you see that most people have the biggest struggle with? Which step is it usually?
Well, right now, kind of out of their hands is just housing and inflation.
Yeah.
Everybody's
dealing with that.
Yeah. Everybody is seeing that. And so when we are working with clients that, recently have obtained employment or whatever their situation might be, and then getting on wait lists for housing, trying to find affordable housing, whatever that might be for them is definitely a challenge. In previous years, we saw about a 30-day length of stay within both shelters. And over the last year and a half or so, that has risen to over 100 days in the family shelter and about 60 days in the women's shelter.
Do you feel like there's a reason for that? Like, is there, like, is it inflation? Is it just everything going on in the economy? Like, what is the main reason you guys have seen behind that? Yeah,
absolutely. And then just the lack of housing. We're seeing rent triple for some apartment complexes, different landlords. And so it's just really, really tough because I think a lot of people, regardless of your background, you're definitely seeing the increase in everything. And so then when you have someone that is recently homeless and then working on those next steps, it can definitely be a challenge.
Does that seem to be a reason that we're starting to see people come into, is because that they're losing their housing because of the raise in the rent and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing a little bit more of that. But our top reason for homelessness that we see pretty much year after year is domestic violence. We see a lot of that within both shelters. And then evictions is a close second, or being asked to told to leave. And what that means is really just someone staying with a family member or a friend, and then either they get evicted or there's a falling out of some kind, and then they're told that they have to leave, so then they lose their housing as well.
You guys served over 34,000 meals a year ago. Is that more than the previous year? And are you expecting that number to go up this year as well?
Yeah, it'll go up. It'll definitely go up. We did some renovations actually last year in 23. And so we served a little bit less than we normally do because we had to close off some of our wings. But yeah, definitely that 35,000 plus for meals is something we see every year.
Is that a tough discussion to have? Because obviously you guys are keen on trying to be able to help as many people as you possibly can. And the goal is to help everybody, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to have a conversation. Okay, do we decide to close down a little bit of what we have to offer to be able to help more people in the future? And what do those conversations sound like?
Yeah, so within our family shelter, we have 23 individual rooms. They're private rooms. And so we never double up families, and we never do overflow. So
Is that a safety thing?
Yep, that's a safety thing. And, you know, we have kids on site, and so we want to make that a priority for everybody. But something pretty unique about our family shelter is that we do allow men within the shelter.
Okay.
That's something that's a little unheard of. Typically, the mother and children are able to stay together, and the dad has to go to a men's shelter. We don't do that. So as long as the man is part of the family unit, they are welcome to be there with us. So within those 23 family rooms, depending on the family size, you know, our total number at any given time can vary. But then within our women's shelter, we have 26 available beds.
I have to ask because
Yeah.
it seems, because we've had people in here from the Open Door Mission and Lutheran Family Services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it feels like there's this push for men to get back involved in their families' lives or be present fathers. Is that kind of the reason that you guys are deciding to let men in, because it just seems like there's more around?
Yeah, and I think too, whatever has brought them through our doors is already traumatic enough, and pulling a member of their family out just adds to that. And so definitely keeping as much normalcy as possible for them while they're with us is key.
And you mentioned, and men aren't the only one that commit domestic violence, but obviously that's more prone in cases. Is that kind of a reason that's been part of the reason you haven't in the past? Because listen, everybody that's been a domestic violence victim doesn't talk about it, and that's probably got to be a big reason to kind of maybe separate the family a little bit too, right?
Yeah, and you know, and I think that between our case management, and then we offer a variety of other mental health and support services, that we definitely want to help all of the clients target whatever trauma or history that they have coming in with them.
You obviously, in your role, are the director of philanthropy and are helping with fundraising. What are some ways that people can donate to the Micah House?
Yeah, so of course, all the time you can go to our website, themicahhouse.org, and make a donation or a recurring gift, whether that's weekly or monthly, quarterly. All of those contributions, of course, are so appreciated. But then we also do 2 events every year, one of which is coming up here in about a month in November. We do a trivia night at Cross Strain in La Vista, so it's a lot of fun.
Shout out to Doug and those guys.
Yeah, they're great. They are so great. But we do a 10-round trivia night. It's a lot of fun. You come in, pizza, beer, it's all included in your team.
It's not a huge venue down there.
Right,
What's the turnout usually look like?
Yeah, so this is actually just our second year doing this. So this is a new event that we established last year.
And what night is this going to be? Sorry.
So it's Thursday, November 7th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and throw that on my calendar, make sure we're there for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people always ask, where do funds go when they make a donation? What are they going towards, and what are they helping with?
Yeah, so our shelter and support services. So I mentioned some of the case management. We talked a little bit about meals, but also within the shelter, we provide everything for everybody staying there. So hygiene products, towels, clothing, all of those items, as well as this summer, we were able to open a childcare center, which is a great addition to the support services that we offer.
Especially for folks that are trying to go back to work and,
Absolutely.
and need a babysitter.
Absolutely.
What are some items that you guys are struggling to obtain? Obviously, everybody's heard about the seashore shutdowns with the shoremen. They're obviously back at work, but it's an an ongoing worry for most Americans. What are some of the items that if people can donate, you guys are accepting?
Yeah, year round, it's really canned goods and food. We go through so much food, like we talked about 35,000 meals. And we make sure that all of the meals also fit nutritional guidelines as well. So that's something else that we're committed to. But canned goods, hygiene products are always a need, even cleaning supplies, or of course, just monetary donations that can then go into those services.
We're catching up with Maren Larsen, the Director of Philanthropy at the Micah House here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studio. Thank you to everybody that pointed out the typo in the bio. I got that fixed. Thanks for everybody that let me know. I want to talk about the number, 34,000 meals. And when we talk about the rampantness of homelessness, not only in Omaha, but in America, does that seem like a large number, or there's still a ton of people out there that just aren't getting help?
Yeah. I think that it's a little bit of both. So our meals, we only are serving those that are staying within the shelter.
Yeah.
It's not an outward facing pantry. And so to think, we serve about 700 individuals every year, and those 35,000 meals are going directly to those individuals.
You guys also have a heavy focus on individual care and individual attention. You mentioned if families aren't separated, and most times they have their own individual rooms with supervision. Why is it such a big deal to give individual care?
I think, again, just keeping that normalcy. We don't know what they experienced coming into the shelter. And so making it as normal as possible for them. The easiest way to describe really our shelter is kind of like a dorm room. So all of the families, they have a dorm room with shared restrooms and common spaces. They, of course, eat together in the dining room. But aside from that, we really want to make sure that they have their private space, that they can still just be a family unit.
What is an in-kind drive, and how can people get involved with that?
Yeah, in-kind drive. So any sort of items, whether that's canned goods, clothing, hygiene products, anything like that, we can always use. Like I said, we rely heavily on businesses, churches, schools, or community organizations that do drives for us throughout the year.
Do you mind giving a shout out to some of those people who they may be that are doing this?
Yeah. So we had, just going back to school, we had Old Navy over in
cool.
Council Bluffs. They did a drive for us, which is great.
Yeah.
Throughout the holiday season, we have different doctors' offices and law groups within Council Bluffs that do drives for us, which is it's just great. Getting them involved, as well as heading into the holidays. Toys are also a large need. We provide all of the toy shopping for our families, so we rely heavily on those community donations. And then the parents can go in and shop for their kiddos and get the gifts wrapped, and make Christmas as normal as possible.
Before we get to that big holiday, Thanksgiving obviously comes up. What does Thanksgiving at the Micah House look like?
Yeah, so we do a big Thanksgiving dinner. Our cooks are great, and we usually have a couple volunteers that come in as well and decorate the dining room and just make it a fun holiday for them. We do the typical turkey, big Thanksgiving meal, and it's always a lot of fun.
Talk to me about the career closet and how that helps people in the Micah House and what it is.
Yeah, so the career closet is actually an outward-facing service that we have. So we rely on community donations for that as well. But career clothing, and
just looking at the picture on your website, it looks like the donations are very plenty too, which is awesome.
Yeah, we have a wonderful volunteer, Janet, who comes in twice a week, and she sorts everything by size and gets everything organized. But anyone staying within the shelters or anyone from the community, they're welcome to make an appointment, come in and get 2 complete outfits every month, and be ready to impress at their job interview or whatever it is that they have.
You mentioned hygiene products a few minutes ago, and obviously that's very different for men versus women. Talk to me about I Support the Girls and what that program looks like and who it helps.
Yeah, so we're on the Lakin campus over there in Council Bluffs, and our campus coordinator, Clarissa, is the local director for the I Support the Girls affiliate. And so bras, tampons, things like that, she collects, and then she is able to then distribute those either within our shelter or then just the community.
If somebody can volunteer their time, what does time volunteering look like, and what are some of the things that would be asked of them to volunteer to do?
We have a variety of things. We have a sign up on our website, themicahhouse.org. But I would say the most popular volunteer activity is definitely the kitchen, either coming in, prepping a meal, or serving a meal, helping to clean up from that. But we have a lot of groups that come in and do that and have a lot of fun.
If that's the most popular one, what's the most unique one? What's something that maybe somebody may not be expecting but may enjoy doing?
Yeah, we can even have people come in and just help clean.
Sure.
We do not have a cleaning service.
Okay.
We rely on staff and support to maintain the shelter. So, of course, having volunteers come in that want to help clean, wash windows, anything like that, we're always so grateful for.
We talked about it a little bit with the expansion and the additions that you guys have had, but what does growth look like for the Micah House over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So, right now we are limited to 23 families at a time and 26 women just because of safety. And we want to make sure everyone still has their private space.
Yeah.
We never want to double up. But with the addition of the child care center, for years we heard from clients, what's an additional barrier that you have? And they consistently shared child care because if they don't have child care, they can't have a job. And it's, just this vicious circle. So we were able to launch a capital campaign. We broke ground last summer, and then we opened this July.
And how many people work in the child care center?
So right now we have about 10 staff over there. And we're about half capacity. So it's something else that's really cool about the Child Care Center is that it's not only a service for those staying at the shelter, but it's also a service for the community. So we welcome enrollment from anybody.
If that's a hurdle that you guys have been able to overcome, what's the biggest hurdle facing Micah House right now then?
Yeah, I think definitely the giving landscape. We've talked a little bit about inflation. We've definitely seen some changes in grants or funder support. And it sounds like that's a pretty commonplace across the nonprofit field.
For sure.
But we'll keep on and we'll continue helping everybody.
You're from Plattsmouth.
Yep.
You're from Nebraska. You work in Council Bluffs. What's the biggest difference between the way things are done in Council Bluffs to help the homeless community versus the way that's done? Not that either one is right or wrong, but what's the biggest differences?
Yeah. My whole career I've worked in homeless services, originally in Omaha. And it's definitely a little bit different. Council Bluffs is in a unique spot because it's part of the Omaha Metro, but it's Iowa.
Sure.
And so, sometimes...
I guess we'll claim you guys. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. And so, sometimes, our message has to change a little bit depending on who we're talking to and really making it known that even though we're in Iowa, we're still part of the Omaha Metro. Every year we serve 50% of our people from Nebraska.
Wow.
And so I think that that's worth highlighting that so many people are coming over onto the Council Bluffs side for that service.
I don't know if help is the right word, but do you think that number has gone up because of the Bob Carey footbridge? Is that a possibility?
Perhaps.
Okay, because obviously there's a very large body of water to overcome to get from one side to the other.
Right.
And it's really interesting, like how, because I feel like that is something that has been brought up several times, but I don't know if it gets discussed enough as like the why portion of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that's the biggest hurdle, what's the best part about what you do?
Yeah, I really enjoy kind of seeing both sides of the shelter. So I work directly with donors and grants and all of the fundraising, but it's really nice too getting to sit down with some of the clients and really see that direct impact, the impact of the donations and the contributions that come in, and just hearing about their stories and hearing how grateful they are or how we were able to step in and give them the resources that they needed for that next step.
Are you guys seeing people that leave the program and come back to help at all?
Every so often, yeah.
Is that the ultimate we did it moment? Like, okay, they get it, it worked, and it can work for everybody? Yeah.
Over the summer or last spring, I guess, we had somebody come in that was a client about 6 years ago, and he shared his story with us, and it was just such a great story overcoming addiction. And now as a college graduate, his wife is a college graduate, and they're working within the court systems, which is great, helping out people that as they say, as they
They
once
can relate.
were.
They can relate, yeah.
That they can relate to.
And we're talking to Maren Larsen, the Director of Philanthropy at the Micah House over in Council Bluffs, here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studio. When we talk about long-term goals and helping people accomplish those, what are some of the common attributes or developing habits that people get that break the cycle of homelessness and are able to overcome?
Yeah, so we provide different classes. Financial literacy and parenting classes are two of the ones that come to mind for definite life skills, right? Once they leave the program, learning how to budget, learning how to manage money, and so that when they do leave the program, they're ready for that next step, and they can be successful in their housing. We talked a little bit about the length of stay, how that has greatly increased, and so we're looking at how we can be more intentional while they're with us, because a 30-day length of stay really isn't a long time, for some intensive case management. So now that people are being with us for 3-4 months at a time, we're able to really, really hone in on that case management, really look at what it is that they need and make sure even more that they have those resources.
I want to talk about you for a minute. Not
Okay.
only the Director of Philanthropy, but you also are a coach's wife.
I am.
You're a mother.
Yes.
You are helping as many people as you possibly can. You're raising 2 small children. You're trying to be a spouse at the same time.
Yeah.
How do you balance all that?
Yeah, it's can be a challenge at times,
Sure.
for sure, especially right now in football season. But it's great because I feel like my family is involved as well. My daughter loves coming to work with me, and
That's awesome.
And helping out with different things and working with the staff and seeing clients. And so it's really great that they have learned that as well. And having my husband's support, that's great.
Does Curtis volunteer every now and then?
Yeah.
Do you make him?
He asks to. No, he does. Yeah,
good job,
he does.
Curtis.
Yeah.
If we're talking about 5 to 10 years down the road, what's something that you would like to have your fingerprints on that's something that the Micah House accomplishes?
Yeah, I think the child care center, of course, that's kind of happening right now, but really seeing the impact of that. It'll be a few years before we have some pretty strong data for it.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. How unique is that? That's a pretty unique situation to be able to provide that, right?
Yeah. There's not many, that's for sure. And we were really excited to add it because, all of the families in the shelter, they'll have an automatic spot over there. And so they can start their employment search, start working right away, which is great.
I don't know if you noticed. I'm sure you're passionate about everything you talk about today, but every time you bring up the child care center, you start smiling. Why is it such a? Is this something you had a major impact on? It kind of was something that you had kind of pushed in the right direction.
No, I think just from being a mom myself, and I know how hard it is to obtain child care. I know how expensive it can be. I know.
Preach.
I know. The worry of who's with your kids and what are they teaching them and all of those things. And our child care center director, Jess, is just phenomenal. And she has built a really, really great program over there. And all the staff is, they're just great. And so every time I go over there, you just see the kids running around. You see them doing artwork. You see the staff just invested in them and building such a strong rapport with them. It's just a different side, than the shelter, which is great, of course. But
honestly, my wife is a stay-at-home mom, and the biggest reason is because we don't know. We're very worried about who our kids are around and things. You just don't know in today's world. And it's a scary thought process. If somebody is dealing with homelessness right now and they're going through the struggle and they're in Council Bluffs, what does the process look like if they're a family in need that needs somewhere to stay?
So you can reach out to us either online or call in, and we have 24-hour staff within the shelter, the family and the women's shelter, and they will talk with you. They'll learn about your situation. If we have an opening right then, great. If not, they will add you to our wait list and kind of talk through the next steps with you on what that might look like.
Are there other shelters within the Council Bluffs / Omaha community that you guys work with?
So there is one shelter just a little bit north of us. It's a men's shelter.
Okay.
And so, if we ever have a single male that calls into us, we definitely refer them that way. But otherwise, we work hard on providing those resources or adding them to our wait list, and really just looking at how we can help them and how quickly we can do so.
And that phone number is 712-323-4416. If you know somebody that is dealing with homelessness or just has some questions that they need answered, please give Maren's team a call, and they'd be happy to walk you through that process. We're kind of hitting the point where we tend to shut her down for the day. Is there anything about the Micah House that we haven't mentioned that you'd like people to know about?
Yeah, I think just that it's a great service, and we are so grateful for the community support. And so whether that's through a drive or whether that's attending our trivia night here in a few weeks.
One more time, that date and time is?
November 7th at Cross Drain in La Vista.
And what time?
At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. So make sure you get down there. Try the Fairy Nectar. It's my personal favorite. They've also got the Cornhead Lager that supports 1890. If you're a Nebraska football fan, some of that money goes there as well. Maren, thank you so much for coming in and do this. We will definitely be there in a couple weeks to support you guys in that. Again, if you want to get a hold of the Micah House, if you have questions or know somebody that is struggling, 712-323-4416. They are based in Council Bluffs. Would be more than happy to help anybody that may have questions today. Thank you so much for taking time to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We're going to be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast. We were a little bit early today, but we appreciate everybody that showed up early to join us. We're talking about, listen, everybody's talking about internet speed and the problems that you're having. Fiber First is a new internet provider here in the Omaha area, and we're talking to them tomorrow at 11 a.m. We hope you can join us here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studio. We'll see you tomorrow at 11.